right, 6:43, let's call this to order. Item 3.1, mobile signs. Harback.
We're back. So we've always had issues, or in the past have had issues regarding the mobile signs. This was brought to council on May 27, 2019, and council's direction was to enforce the bylaw, and letters were sent out advising users of mobile signs that in accordance with the zoning bylaw, after 90 days in one spot, most mobile signs had to be removed for 30 days. In July, a letter and petition were received by the town from local businesses advising that they did not agree with the above letter that council's direction was to wait and, that they did not agree with the above letter that was sent. Council's direction was to wait and see how the new zoning bylaw dealt with mobile signs. We have now received the new zoning bylaw, and unfortunately there are even less parameters for dealing with mobile signs. The only thing that the new zoning bylaw states regarding mobile signs is they must not include any flashing lights, maximum of one sign per property, only allowed to occupy one parking space where there is no particular alternative, and a minimum distance of 65 feet between mobile signs shall be maintained. Want to know what council would like to see. I had made some recommendations, and this is what we had been talking about in the past, was one sign per property, which must advertise at their own business, and there'd be no time frame, and then plus all the above conditions that the new zoning bylaw addressed. And if council wanted to, or another suggestion to, one sign per property can advertise other businesses, but have to have property owners' permission. And if there would be a time frame, maybe 2 months. And if not looked after, the town would have the right to remove it. And mobile signs would not be permanent fixtures. I'm not sure how council feels.
Any discussion?
So by you saying that it'd be a permanent fixture, even though if it's a mobile sign, it can be moved? But you're just saying that
At one point,
just not to leave it, a mobile sign in the same place indefinitely?
yeah, and at one point what some people were doing were putting mobile signs on cement blocks, so they were permanent, but they weren't that easy to remove anymore.
So then would it be considered a mobile sign if it was put on cement blocks?
When I'm saying mobile signs, I'm referring to those black ones with the colors that can be changed. That would still be, in the bylaw, it would still be considered a mobile sign, even if it's on cement blocks.
So it wasn't
The type of sign.
Sorry,
Yeah, it was.
but it wasn't attached to the cement blocks, it was just kind of placed on
Yep.
them? Okay.
The cement blocks are just a way down.
Okay.
They were attached to
Okay.
the cement block, but the cement block and sign was set down,
Yeah.
so they're not in the ground. I think the 2 months is a little bit short, just because of the winter thing. Like if a person could go for 4 months, it kind of wraps you around 3 seasons. So if you're gonna force them to move it, and they do it properly, they can move it without too much hindrance because of winter and freezing to the ground. So they move it at the start of spring, the end of fall, or the start of fall, and then again the other way around.
So when we had sent out the letter in, or when we received the letter in July in the petition, was there anything in there for recommendations from people that own the signs? No. Could we go back to the mobile sign owners and ask them for some of their recommendations? Like, I just don't know I don't know what the right answer is. I just know this is always an issue. It's always an issue, and I just don't know. It'd be nice to get it somewhat right. I didn't mind the having to move the signs, but I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. So.
I think what you're asking in here, Jen, is that in the new zoning bylaws, it has less parameters.
Yep.
And we want to have more parameters put in the new zoning bylaw.
It does council.
correct?
At one
Yeah.
point, that was the talk of having more parameters. And at one point, it was you could only have a mobile sign if it was advertising your business on your property. You couldn't just put a sign anywhere for any business. And I know council was at one point talking about just having it on your own property, advertising your own business.
And they still have to do the permit issue,
I
right?
don't like that.
Yes, there's still a permit process. Yeah, there's a form that they have to come and fill out.
Carrie, what were you saying?
I feel that if I own a business and I own property, and if Chad wants to put a sign on my property, that it should be up to me to decide whether or not I want to help Chad with his advertising. I don't,
Correct, and that's what's happening, I believe, right now, right? There's quite a few properties that are owned by other people and signs that people
Well,
put on.
and I think that's one of the recommendations, one
Yeah.
sign per property, can advertise other business, but have to have property owner's permission.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
So you guys are good with that?
And my recommendation was if it's your own business on your own property, you can have it there as long as you want.
Right.
If
Right.
it's somebody else's property advertising somebody else's business, then there would be a time frame.
Then it can only be 2 months.
But that's, like
Yeah.
Carrie said, if it's up to the property owner, it's up to the property owner. So,
no,
What do you think, Trevor?
Yeah, I don't want to be in the, if they want to keep it up longer, I don't really see how it's my decision to, you know what I mean, they can keep it up for as long as they want. I think the biggest ones, they already have, and if it doesn't look, the town has the right to move it, if it's, you know, unsightly or whatever, that part that's there. Like, I don't think we should have any right to say how long I advertise for Chad for, if he's paying me, or it's an agreement, and it's their agreement, and, you know, it's the proper distance from the road and all that kind of stuff is in there, then that's fine. I don't really want to have any, so it's, yeah. So I had the one sign per property, you can advertise other businesses, I don't really care about the time frame. If not looked after, a town has the right to remove. And then the other ones, obviously, that are in the new bylaw.
So generally speaking, we're good with the recommendation, just remove the time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consensus is good with that? Yeah,
okay.
so resolution?
No, it's
No?
just for, recommendation, I'll have to provide that to the HCFC to include that in the zoning bylaw. So there'll be amendment when we do second reading.
Cool, all right.
The only other one, sorry, just one quick one. I just know that there are some signs that have been placed on property, but they're not getting the proper permission to
So
keep
then
it.
the town would have the right to remove. We would send a letter saying you don't have permission, you have so many days to remove it. If not, then the town would remove it.
Sure, okay, yeah, just so that there's something on record that they actually have the
Yep.
permission to have the sign.
Yeah, there's a form.
Okay.
There's a permit form. There's no charge for the permit form, but we make them fill out the form, and then that's when we would keep track of days and stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay, finance and admin, October financial reports, issues from the controller.
Distracted by your shirt. So exciting stuff once again. Couple points I wanted to make this time around. I'm sure you guys have been over this. Looking at how some of the numbers are playing out here, I suspect we're going to have some small deficits on our hands with a couple of these departments. KRC and Wellness Center, I don't think that's a real surprise, seeing as we were over budget. Things may level out a little bit, but probably looking at small deficits there. The museum, surprisingly, is looking at a small deficit, I think. I did have a talk with Shireen to try and manage her budget with what she can, but I mean, some of the expenses are obviously out of her control at this point. And the airport, again, I don't think there's a big surprise there. Fuel sales were a dagger this year, so, you know, typically the airport pays for itself and some, and this is just not a good year for us. Hopefully the change isn't that they went private with that firefighting, and it's just that we didn't have any fires to fight. I mean, there may still be changes. I don't want to be all dour, but I mean, at this point, it's good for you guys to be aware that these could fall under there. Now, the positive is we're under budget in other areas. So utilities under budget, public works, the dump, you know, so potentially we could still kind of line up to a zero. I suspect there's a few other things going to be on the books there that'll take us down a little bit, but I don't think it's too dire.
Does the airport have a reserve for this sort of situation?
The airport's reserve is capital.
Just capital?
Yeah. I could read through it. I'm pretty sure when I looked through it the first time, it was just meant for capital replacement. Related to this, I did send out an email in for budgets. I know that a number of budgets are in, the majority of them. There's a few kind of outliers, but I'd like to get council to sit down and decide on some dates and whatever you want. So,
Now
get
that you
rocking
said
and rolling.
now that you said that at the airport, I believe there was a year, quite a few years ago,
You
that,
grafted some money back.
yeah, from the surplus. Now
I
whether or
think
not
it's
that's.
gone.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure
I
it's
can,
gone.
I can read through that, that bylaw again, because there'll be a bylaw, but
Okay.
I don't remember seeing anything like that. Didn't even occur to me.
Just to pull it back in.
Any other questions?
Resolution.
No, thank you, Grant. Alrighty, payroll and accounts.
We will need a resolution for pay period 25 in the amount of $104,041.27. Town of the Paw general checks in the amount of $1,695,74.05, sorry. EFTs in the amount of $93,349.60. And I just loaded a few checks. There was one for Brandt Tractor in the amount of $198,000. That was for the new loader, which was passed by Resolution 177. There's a $19,000 for Cook and Cook. It's insurance for the fleet for all our vehicles. Edmund Trucking was the road salt in the amount of $13,776. That was passed by Resolution 223. Minister of Finance, $718,079.14. That's for all the debentures for the Minister of Finance. Receiver General in the amount of $567,842. That's for our CMP for the quarter ending September 30th. And then Sue's Water Technologies and Solutions, that's for water treatment plant chemicals in the amount of $16,464. And we need resolutions. If there's any more questions?
Go, did you have one, Bill?
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know what it is. It's right after Pete's Pro Tackle.
Pick later.
Pit
Piplotto?
Blotto?
Lawyer.
Okay. Just didn't recognize the name.
Just a question on procedure or just practice. So we bought a new tractor, $198,000, whatever. Do we ever have an open house and let people see what we bought this year? Show off the
We've never
fleet?
done that.
Might be an idea, you know, so they can see where their tax money's going. Shine her up and be proud of it.
Should have had it in the parade.
Should have had it in the parade, yeah, it's a good idea. Well, sure, why
Is it
not,
here?
eh?
I'm not sure if it's here, that's the other thing.
Oh.
Yeah, I have to find out. It might even just still be blue.
You-
Yeah. Well, I think it's important that
Change
people
the tires.
know where their money's going, eh?
Yeah, have it parked at the arena.
Yeah, people can see it. Okay, so, resolution to come. Alrighty, town planter, request letter from the Wascana Inn.
And we receive a letter from the Wascana Inn, and they would like to continue looking after the upkeep of the planter for 2020. This costs the town nothing.
Is there a rush to respond?
Probably not.
The reason I ask is, I was talking to somebody from the chamber today, and they were indicating they may want to have a broader discussion on planter. So I wonder if we could just put it off for a few weeks to next meeting. Maybe they can have their chat. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Just a quick question.
Yep.
Who did the Christmas lights and the trees and the planter? Was that the West Canada?
No.
No.
That was
That
the
was
PAW
chamber.
Community, no, the
Or-
PAW Community Renewal Corps. Desiree.
TPCRC?
Yep.
Well, they look great.
Yes.
It looks really good.
Des did a wonderful job this year.
Yeah.
Okay, 4-4, front steps.
An invitation to tender was advertised in the El Pasco Times and was posted on Merck's and town website for the repair of the front steps at the Civic Center. One bid in the amount of $57,948 was received. The budget was $15,000, so this is over budget by about $43,000. Recommendation of the purchasing agent is to reject the bid and retender in the spring and revise the scope of work. This was for information.
Okay.
And this
Unless
was to-
council wants to move forward.
To put, and I don't know if you need like, if this has to be a tender or not, but just to put, like steel over top of the concrete in the meantime, is that, like that would be,
Depending on how much it costs.
could we not, I don't know, I'm not a construction
Yeah,
person,
you
but
could
they,
do that for sure. You could just get some diamond plate made
and that,
and then bolt it down.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be crazy expensive, but
The steel's gonna make it slippery though, right?
yeah, but if you do diamond plate, it helps.
Okay.
Like, you know,
yeah.
it's never gonna be,
No, I was just thinking if the 57,000 is going to be, or whatever, if that's a roundabout, you know, what we're gonna get, that's gonna be, when are we gonna get that done, right? So we'll be still talking about in 2 years' time, but if you could put that steel plating over, I've actually seen most places put steel plating over and not do the full concrete restoration, but I'm not a construction person, so.
You're referring to like what the post office has, that?
Yeah, they put, the post office
Yeah.
does it.
Yeah.
They did some remediation of the concrete as well, but then they put the plating over top. So I don't know, again, maybe we could just do the,
like if we were to
Is
do
that
them all,
council's
it would
direction?
be.
Okay, so, so two things. First question is, so we're not going to accept the tender? So that will be deferred. Secondly, we may want to change the scope of the work?
right?
And I think that was the big issue was the scope wasn't tightened up enough. It wasn't
Okay.
tightened up with what was being looked at, I guess. But
And possibly the amount that was set for budget may not have been appropriate either.
Too short?
If there's that big of a.
Yeah, well,
What do you mean by the scope of work?
Well, the steel stuff you just spoke about, if we include that in part of the,
Yeah, no, what he said, like, we could tighten up the scope of work, that's
So,
what I'm wondering if you. what do you
it
think?
was pretty open to interpretation.
Oh.
The scope of work itself was open to interpretation, so you could go to the point, like it was whether repair or replace, right? And the scope needs to be clear on what exactly we want. If we want it repaired, say we want it repaired. If we want it replaced, say we want it replaced. This bid includes removal and replace. So that's taking out all of that concrete, putting in all new concrete. That gets expensive very quickly.
Whereas, are you saying that the scope of work should say we need to have 2 new steps?
That's right, if that's,
Like, be
if,
very specific,
that's right, it
more
needs to be
specific
more
that way?
specific, and that's, I think, you know,
See, the bid offer for the following scope is removal of all of the old stairs and ramps, replace old stairs, ramps with new concrete stairs, ramps, railing, like it was a total redo, like a total.
yeah.
The only reason why I bring this question up is we're sitting here again, talking
Yeah.
about the exact same thing we talked about two or three meetings ago, and we're looking and we're like, well, let's go do looks like we have to do read the tender again. And it's gonna come up, and then now, well, it was kind of too specific, so, like, how do we get it right? And that, I mean, like, it doesn't really matter if we don't have 60 grand, I guess regardless, but at the same time, how do you get it right? Like, we were sitting here having the exact same conversation about flooring in the rink.
I agree with you. When we went forth to budget the money, we were talking about a repair.
Right.
But this is saying redo.
Yeah.
So when we were budgeting for a repair, not a replacement. So I don't know where the mixed messages come into play as to when the tenders are going out.
Can we address this? This is, we
This
only got
is-
one bidder.
this has
and
happened
it wasn't
multiple
worth it to
times.
come to Winnipeg, and we didn't want to offer the warranty on a repair job. We were kind of aiming at local contractors to do a patch job, to fix it up. Nobody did, just that one contractor from Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So I think the issue is we're not getting the response. I think maybe we got to reach out harder, get more interaction back. I'm not sure.
Okay, so for our direction going forward, what do we want to do going forward with this? Because we're rejecting this tender.
Bring it back.
Are we we're gonna what?
I would say bring it back to budget and decide exactly.
Bring it back to budget?
Yeah, and
Okay.
decide what we want to do with it, right? Because like Carrie said, do we want to repair it? If we want to repair it, then Graham's right, you go harder at the local contractors and get them to do stuff like that, but, yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then, I guess back, go on and on about this, but, so when this goes to tender, are we not having, like, one of our managers that's kind of responsible for all the buildings, kind of giving the information on what we want on these projects, or is this just go?
This is just going back to budget.
Yeah. Know what I mean, like for, like.
I know what you're saying,
You know
yeah.
what I mean, so like, so now we say, yeah, we want it repaired. So then Aldrin does up a repair of 2 steps, 3 steps, 12 steps, so does this go to Chris?
What would
And
we,
this goes to Chris, okay, that's what I wanna make sure, right? So it's going to
It's
the right
not the
person.
purchasing agent figuring this out. The department head provides the information to the purchasing agent. The purchasing agent does the tender.
Yes.
Can we not send it out for tender and then go to budget so that we can look at budgeting the right amount for it? We have to set an amount first.
okay, back to budget. All right, issue sheet, pardon me, the Sam Waller Museum.
In accordance with bylaw number 4590, being a bylaw of the town of the Paw to authorize establishment of a museum board, part 5, section 5 states it's council's responsibility to appoint board members. The museum has recommended the appointment of Ken Whaley as the Rotary representative and reappointment of Bev McTavish and Connie Wyatt to the Sam Waller Museum Board. Resolution will be required.
Any discussion?
Sounds great.
Great to have them aboard.
Good, yeah, good, yeah.
The Skippy L.
The designated Heritage Building Fund through Manitoba government declined the town's application a while ago. This program has been replaced by the Heritage Resource Conservation Grant, and the deadline for application is January 5th, 2020. This was for the conditional assessment of the Skippy L. Sam Waller Museum would like to submit a funding application to the province through this new grant to cover half the cost of the conditional assessment. Council's in favor of this. A resolution will be required where council will commit to half of the cost, to cover half of the assessment.
Didn't we approve this once?
You approved it once, but it was for the designated Heritage Building Fund. Now we need a resolution approving it through the
Is it government?
Heritage Resource Conservation Grant.
Yeah. It's a new
It's a
organization,
Something else.
doing the same process. Bureaucracy at its
But we need a
finest.
resolution.
Anyone have any issues about approving this again? No?
I'll be voting against it again.
Okay,
A resolution is required for the grant application. So
all right, so resolution's coming forward? Everybody gets a chance to. Is that it? Oh my lord, we have a few things in camera. So, thanks for coming, folks. Have a very Merry Christmas. Hug somebody you love. Take some time to enjoy life. Resolve that.
Come on, Bill.
Resolved that we now move ourselves into the in-camera portion of the committee as a whole with Mayor Jake set in the chair to discuss matters requiring our attention.
There'll be no business coming out of it.